offense teams, one of my personal favorite archetypes to play in terms of team building and battling. And it's a very thin line between a standard team and a bulky offense team. Now, as the name implies, a bulky offense team is trying to sort of straddle a line between stall-based teams and a more standardized team having both offense and defense on each of their Pokemon. They're a little bit bulkier than the standard teams, but at the same time, they are not quite as dedicated to it as a stall team. The big advantage of having a bulky offense team is you have a lot of leeway. Misprediction on a switch-in probably won't cost you the game if you only do one or two. Whereas in a standard team, a lot of your more important Pokemon are pretty fragile, so they'll just get destroyed if you predict wrong on a switch-in. A bulky offense team can usually take one or two mispredictions before it actually falls apart. So that's probably its greatest strength here. Now, what defines a Pokemon that should be on a bulky offense team? Well, in theory, it should have both innately high defensive abilities, or at least decent enough defensive abilities, while still maintaining a heavy amount of offense. Kyurem Black here, as I'm showing, is probably a perfect example of it. You have a base 125 HP, which is absolutely astronomical. You've got good, near 100 defenses. At the same time, you have a massive attack stack to work with, a very high special attack stat to work off of, and an okay speed stat. You're really just a jack-of-all-trades type of Pokemon here. Volcanion fills in the same thing. It has very good defensive stats, or good enough defensive stats, particularly on the physically defensive stat, while still being able to invest very heavily into the offensive spectrum, in this case special attack. Metagross, Mega Metagross in particular, is another example of this. You have an astronomical defensive stats with 150 150 physical defense, 110 special defense, heavy amount of offensive ability, and that's basically the big thing about it. Each Pokemon on this team has an offensive and defensive role to fill in, with the exceptions being Skarmory and Thundurus, and I just threw those in because I couldn't think of what else to put in. But anyway, getting back onto the team archetype, other Pokemon that sort of fill in this sort of offensive-leaning Pokemon while being bulky enough on their own is Landorus Terrien. It has I believe, a base 145 attack, which is huge. So you don't really need to invest at all into that. And in fact, you could even probably get away with not investing too much on Kyurem Black and still do relatively well. It's just you might as well take advantage of this thing hitting like a truck. But that's why getting back to Landorus, that's why you sort of see these varying types of sets. You see Scarf Landorus, which is just hit hard, hit fast. You see bulky setup Landorus, which uses Rock Polish or Swords Dance, or sometimes even both, and just destroys threats that way. You see standard lead Landorus that just sets up rocks and just be an annoying intimidator the entire game. That's sort of what you're trying to do. You're trying to sort of constantly have something that can't be killed, but is still a threat. What are some weaknesses to bulky offense teams? That's sort of hard to say. A bulky offense team is very much dependent on the pilot behind it, more so than a hyper offense and stall. But bulky offense's biggest weakness is setup. And by that I mean, because all your Pokemon are pretty much straddling a line, if something starts setting up on you with like Swords Dance or Calm Mind or whatever, your natural bulkiness won't handle the offensive abilities. While if they're trying to bulk up their defenses, you just won't have the firepower to break through if they get too high. So you have to constantly be thinking, am I giving my opponent a free buff if they try to set up here? Is it better to just maybe go for the Hail Mary attack instead of just letting them get a Swords Dance off? This particular team kinda gets around that issue with Thundurus here having Prankster and Thunder Wave. If an offensive threat gets too large, I'll just T-wave it, and I suddenly faster in it, and I can start swinging back on it. I also sort of solved that issue with Whirlwind on Skarmory here, who's probably the crux of my defense, being the bearer of Defog, Recovery, and Whirlwind means that a lot of setup Pokemon don't have the ability to deal with me. But this is mostly my choice rather than actually what you should do. Alternative options here would be having Taunt to just prevent the option altogether. I've considered running Taunt on Thundurus over like Hidden Power Ice and having both options available to me. But it's really up to a player. But again, you have to be very careful with things like Scolipede or Scizor even can be a massive pain in the neck because it's also a bulky Pokemon that gets access to a bunch of setup moves that can just really start the game off on the wrong foot for you if it gets set up too soon, too quickly. But anyway, onto the team. Now, this is a team I sort of threw together pretty quickly. It's not the greatest. I'm probably not going to use this team too much, but it sort of showcases a thought process. And for the record, the reason why I'm not going to use this team is because I absolutely hate like 3 of the 6 Pokemon on here, and 2 of the Pokemon I think are just boring, and the one Pokemon that I actually like is actually Rhyperior, who is a really cool Pokemon. I just wish it had Recovery, and I'd be 100% happy with it. But anyway, I hate Kairu and Black. I hate Volcanion with a burning passion. I think Thundurus is boring. I hate Mega Metagross. I like the design. I just hate facing the damn thing. And Skarmory is also just really boring. So I probably won't use this team just because I think this particular team is boring. But I figured that if someone wanted to play a bulky offense team, this would be a very good place to start. You've got a lot of flex room with this team. You got enough room in the team that if you wanted to change movesets, each of the Pokemon have a large enough move pool that you could probably tweak this team to your own tastes. That being said, let's get into the team. We're starting off with Kairu and Black, and Kairu and Black is a Pokemon that a lot of people have been screaming to get banned, and I just laugh at them because it really shouldn't. That isn't to say I don't understand why people think it should be banned. You look at that base 170 attack, and you just go, holy crap, why does it have base 170 attack? How is that fair? And then you look at its move pool and go, oh, that's why it's fair. Its really only problematic move is Fusion Bolt on the physical side, and, well, that just gets nullified out by the millions of ground types running around everywhere, so it's not even that big of a deal. However, it still has a usable special attack stat, which is what makes it a fantastic Pokemon against Stall. Because no matter what happens, that Fusion Bolt's going to be hitting for a truckload, even if you don't put any investment in it whatsoever. So the EVs are pretty self-explanatory. You're running 20 attack just to amp up that damage on Fusion Bolt just a little bit. Max special attack because that's your primary attacking stat contrary to what your base stats are telling you. And the rest is just speed because you need to be fast enough to hit stuff. Onto the moveset, Ice Beam is your spam move because nothing is immune to it. Earth Power is to smack Heatrans and Volcanions around. Fusion Bolt is for everything else. And Hidden Power Fire is for those Ferrothorns and Scizors that try to switch in on you and you just destroy them. Important thing here to note is that you could take most Scizors Bullet Punch at least once from full, and then revenge kill it back with a Hidden Power Fire, so keep that in mind. We're using Life Orb here. Other item considerations are Choice Scarf if you want to be faster. I've seen Choice Specs. I've even seen Banded for some reason, and that really threw me for a loop. You could even just go for Leftovers if you just like it to be around for a long time, which has its merits. I just like the extra firepower to just break through. Important thing to note is that this thing right here is your main way to destroy Stall. This entire team is designed to beat out Stall eventually, but you have to keep Kyurem alive long enough. If Kyurem falls, you lose a lot of innate power that you really need to truck through walls. So against Stall teams, keep Kyurem alive until absolutely necessary. next Pokemon is Volcanion, and I hate this thing. I hate this thing for a million reasons, and my EVs are wrong, and I'll fix those in a second. But I hate these things so much because it is the dumbest typing, and it is ridiculously strong, and it gets a ridiculous move known as Steam Eruption, which is Scald in Hydro Pump form, and it is bullshit. This thing is here to basically blow up anything that Kyurem maybe have missed, with Steam Eruptions and Fire Blast being thrown around everywhere. You're probably going to be smacking things hard the entire time. Sludge Bomb is there for Fairy types, and Hidden Power Ice is there for Dragon types like Garchomp, who otherwise don't really care and then kill you back with an Earthquake, assuming you don't get a burn on Steam Eruption, which again is a bullshit move. Onto EVs and IVs. You were running Hidden Power Ice, so you kind of have to lose some IVs there, but this should really be 176 due to Stealth Rocks being a thing, and this should be 80. The reason why I'm running 80 speed EVs is specifically to speed creep other Volcanions so I can hit them with my own Sludge Bomb. That's really it. You could dump them all, those 80 EVs into HP, and honestly, it would be just fine. I just like having the little bit of extra speed to beat out other Heatrans and Volcanions. Other than that, it's a pretty standard set. It hits really hard. It can soak up hits. Keep in mind it has Water Absorb, which is really, really nice. And that's all there really is to say with that set. Next up is Thundurus, and oh boy, Thundurus is always fun. It hits really hard, it's really fast, it has one of the most broken abilities known to man, known as Prankster, and its move pool is absolutely ridiculous. Regarding move pool, again, I'm running Thunderwave to deal with anything faster, or as a parting shot if I'm about to die anyway. I might as well get off a paralysis instead of just dying. Thunderbolt is probably your best stab move. Other option would be Volt Switch. I just like being able to sit around and repeatedly using Thunderbolt versus the switching power of Volt Switch, which does have its merits. I just prefer Thunderbolt in this type of team. Hidden Power Ice is for the pseudo Bolt Beam coverage to create perfect type coverage. And Focus Blast, although I hate it when it misses, it is necessary for Heatran, so I can't be too mad at it. Pretty self-explanatory, really easy EVs. Nothing really to talk about on this one. Really easy Pokemon to explain. Mega Metagross. Hey, did you notice something about the other Pokemon? About how they were pretty much all special attackers? Well, here's your physical attacker. And man, is it a physical attacker among physical attackers. Metagross was already a borderline good Pokemon, and then it got a Mega Evolution. Yeah, Dark-type moves and Ghost-type moves now hit it super effective. Well, who cares when you could just smash people's face in with your Mega Evolution? Just saying. Anyway, onto moveset. Mega Metagross. Meteor Mash. Best physical steel-type move in the game, other than maybe Iron Head, which you don't have access to anyway. If you did have access to it, you'd run it just because Flinch is dumb. Ice Punch for coverage, Hammer Arm also for coverage, and Zen Headbutt for stab moves. Other option is to consider would be, I believe it learns Shadow Claw. No, it learns Shadow Ball, excuse me. Earthquake has some merit, Brick Break has some merit. Whoops, that's not Brave Bird. Brick Break has some merit. It really just depends on how much you do not like that speed drop. It really doesn't matter too much because even while slow, Mega Metagross's natural bulk will usually let it tank a hit and then revenge kill the next thing anyway. But you can run Brick Break if it's that much of a big deal to you. EVs, again, are really simple. Max speed, max attack. Put some 4 points on whatever you like. I put in special defense just because that's your weaker stat. And I'm running Jolly just so I hit more magic numbers with speed, which is probably another video altogether about speed tiers. But I digress. You've got a fantastic ability with Clear Body, so you don't suffer from stat drops. It's just a fantastic Pokemon altogether. This thing annihilates Landorus Terrians, because you're bulky enough to take an Earthquake, assuming they haven't gotten to +2. You're not affected by their Intimidate, and you just destroy them with Ice Punch, so keep that in mind. Next up is Rhyperior, and I was a bit hesitant to use this thing, honestly. I kept on thinking, why not Hippowdon? Why not Hippowdon? I'm running two Pokemon at the time that were immune to Sandstorm, so why not that? Well, it turns out that the actual sand damage has gotten my Pokemon killed, since these guys all have Life Orb. So any damage that I can avoid from the team is fantastic. So Rhyperior is basically a bulkier Hippowdon without recovery. It's got a fantastic typing. Rock Ground doesn't suck anymore, and it's just huge. It just soaks damage for days. With Leftovers and Lightning Rod, you could pull off some pretty cheesy stuff. Although maybe I'd run Solid Rock, but Lightning Rod does come in handy for taking in, or for messing up with Rotom Wash's Volt Switch shenanigans, especially if they're Choice Scarfed. It is hilarious, or at least that's the theory in the matter. Again, it also helps deal with any Thunder Waves or whatever, so it's actually really handy. Despite you personally having immunity, a lot of your other Pokemon don't have that immunity, so being able to just soak up some status here and there and some damage here and there is really nice. It's also a good Stealth Rocker, has a fantastic move pool with Ice Punch, Earthquake, and Rock Slide. I'm running Rock Slide over Stone Edge because I got really pissed with Stone Edge for missing 4 times in a row when one would have killed on an Arcanine in UU. But, so I just decided to use Rock Slide for the time being. I haven't really missed the extra power yet. So, self-explanatory Pokemon, hits pretty hard, tanks hit physical hits like a boss. Fantastic Pokemon, use Rhyperior more, guys. It's not bad. Not bad at all. And finally, we have Skarmory. And Skarmory is literally here because I needed something to get rid of hazards, and I needed a ground immunity, one more ground immunity, because if you look, almost my entire team is weak to ground. So I needed another ground immunity that had Defog on it. So I chose Skarmory. Now, other options for this slot were the Lottie twins, which admittedly probably would have fit more with a bulky offense side. But again, I really needed something that's just able to last and take care of any setup sweepers. So that's basically why this is on the team rather than one of the Lottie twins. You could probably run one of the Lottie twins just fine here. I just felt that Skarmory's position as being a steel and a flying type, with its move pool and access particular to Whirlwind, were more valuable than the extra offense granted by the Latios or Latias. Pretty standard set. You'll notice I'm running Brave Bird because Taunt is a thing. Taunt on a Skarmory that doesn't have Brave Bird is a very sad Skarmory, because then it's forced to struggle, and that's very, very sad. EVs are pretty explanatory. Max HP, max defenses, and put the rest into a stat of your choice. We're maxing out our defensive stats because we really, really have quite the physical defensive lineup, and there's not really a whole lot else to really need. You have everything you wanted the rest of your team. Your Skarmory's job is literally to clear out opposing hazards so Rhyperior could throw up Stealth Rocks on his own, and then just Whirlwind phase out any problem Pokemon. And maybe occasionally throwing in a Brave Bird or two on something that you could use a little bit more damage on. Anyway, guys, that is bulky offense teams. Again, it's one of my favorite archetypes of teams just because of how flexible it is. It's really easy. You've got a lot of leeway. I'd recommend this type of team for a beginner. because again, you have a lot of leeway, and then as you get a little bit more experience, you transition more to a standard style team, and then from there you could sort of determine, okay, I'm really more of a hyper offense player, or I'm a stall player, that sort of thing. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Take this team, climb up the ladder, win it all, baby. Anyway, I'm the Gamer Ninja, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.